This show was first broadcast on Free FM, Hamilton, New Zealand's community access media organisation. For more information on our lineup of shows and the role we play in the media, visit freefm.org.nz.
Joining me in the studio is Professor Nick Agar, who is going to be one of a panel of three who will be discussing this big subject next Tuesday at 5:45 at Gallagher Academy of Performing Arts at Waikato University for a public lecture, free admission event. And when I say lecture, that's a bit of a misnomer, but we'll get Nick to talk more about it. Welcome, Atamarehe, Nick. Thank you for coming in and giving us your time this morning to start delving into this. It's big.
Morena, Mike, it's great to be here.
It is. Yeah. Since you told me you were available to do this, I've kind of been counting down the days to get the chance to sit down face to face and have this discussion, because I think it's one that more people should be getting into, because as scary as it seems, I think knowledge is going to help us through this, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's both terrifying and thrilling and exciting. And so it's like, now's the time to get involved, because if you don't get involved, well, you'll probably get the terrifying. But I guess if he tangata can get involved and sort of start thinking about what we can do to get the best out of this, I think we'll get great outcomes. But if we just let it happen, and if we just like do what we kind of did with climate change and hope it goes away, then we're in trouble. Yeah, so we've got to be involved.
We've got a lot to unpick here and only a limited amount of time. So I've got to, as I said, I think it's a subject I want to come back to, and I hope you'll be available later in the year to follow up on this. But let's get your credentials on the table, first of all. Where do you come at this from? What's your background?
Well, I'm from the humanities, which is kind of an endangered sort of subject area at universities these days. So I'm a philosopher. And I've always been interested kind of in the intersection between being human, what it's like to be human, and technology. So I've written far too much about the debate about genetic enhancement and applying digital technologies to our human natures and thinking about whether that's a good thing and when it's a bad thing. So yes,
So this is justification of all those years of doing that kind of work then?
Well, you see some of the things that you speculate about, the crazy things, you think, oh gosh, this is actually happening. And you say, well, because that's what we need right now is daring speculation from young, the students that I teach at the University of Waikato are just all these eager young minds. They're thinking big.
We'll talk about the event before we finish this morning, because I want to urge as many people as possible to come along and take part in this, because the more people you get to the event, I get the feeling it's going to be more successful. You'll have more ideas, more people voicing their concerns and their questions. But I want to ask, why are we suddenly faced with this? It sort of came out of left field a wee bit for a lot of us.
Yeah, I think it's partly because we have this tendency to hope and think that things will keep on going as they are. It's like, climate change, we don't really want that to happen. Let's hope it continues on. It didn't make any difference to our life. Suddenly it does. And that's what happens with tech, with digital tech especially. So digital, if you look at the pattern of sort of technology applied to, say, chess, you think, well, what's the best chess player in the world right now? It's not a human being. It's a machine. And when chess computers came along, to begin with, they were pretty rubbish. And people looked at good chess players, thought, well, it'll be 500 or 100 years before that can beat me. But with digital tech, once they get sort of okay, they rapidly get amazing and far too good. And I think there's we're seeing this, I suspect, in AI, that the stuff is getting pretty good. And check back in 2 years' time. How good will it be?
The thing about artificial intelligence is that it learns rapidly and immediately gets rid of the stuff that's no good. So all it's doing is learning from the best bits and building on that. Is that it in a nutshell? Is that what happens?
It's basically kind of, if you look about there are tech companies in the US who've made this particular sort of application, but in a way, if you're asking where this came from, well, I'll tell you, mate, it came from us. So it basically learned on 570 gigabytes of text that we happily and freely and joyfully uploaded into the internet. And basically what it did, it's like a very, very sophisticated autocomplete sort of program. So when you sort of say, you type in your text, you say, see you after, and it suggests work. It's just looking at patterns. Well, imagine that magnified massively, and with 570 gigabytes of text that we've uploaded, and it finds some freakish patterns.
And we've developed the hardware that allows that to happen instantaneously.
Yes.
When we say artificial intelligence, is that entirely accurate, or is it a bit of a misnomer? Because there is no sentience involved here.
There's definitely no sentience, and it's quite clear if you look at how it works, it's not thinking a single thought, just in the way that basically if you type on your smartphone, see you after, and it suggests work, it's not thinking, I wonder if Mike's wanting to, he might probably, it's thinking nothing. It's just notices a pattern. And when you see you after, well, work's a standard continuation. It just suggests that. So there's no thinking here. I mean, you could ask it to write a love letter to your beloved, and it will probably write. I've asked this. My beloved is in Australia, but it gives you some pretty amazing suggestions. And there's no thinking.
Now, what we're talking about here specifically is ChatGTP and others like that, which are text generation platforms, right?
Yeah.
In other applications, is AI doing stuff that is possibly going to be more scary for us, or is bordering on that area where there is some thought involved, that the learning process that AI goes through is actually starting to make the software itself think, for want of a better expression?
So, yes, not from this. This thing is not thinking.
No, this is all text.
It's just an autocomplete.
But in other areas, because when we talk about AI, it's not just one thing.
No, it's not just one thing. It's a whole lot of application. It's basically sort of automating. I'm doing things that we do okay, even better. And yet that's happening everywhere. Driverless cars, all of these things. So it's kind of like, well, can any of these things? I think at this point, if we're imagining big, don't take anything off the table. I mean, not from large language models will not do an Arnold Schwarzenegger sort of Skynet destroy the world. They're just going to tell you that they'll see you after work.
Yeah.
But other things, who knows? I mean, these things are gobsmackingly impressive.
So it's almost too huge to think about, and it does tend to make us do what you said before, that we retreat a little bit and think, well, it'll all be okay. We're humans, we can control this, and somebody will figure it out. It's not going to be a threat. But could that actually be the reverse? Could it actually be way more threatening than we realise?
I think it's much better to. I would love it to just. I mean, all the other academics. I mean, it's changing our world. When I have submissions from students, I think, was this written by that student? I mean, it seems like a good piece of work, but was it written by a machine? I don't know. I mean, I think it's best to assume. Why not imaginatively? Don't be terrified, because sometimes, that sort of, the deer in the headlights thing, you just do nothing.
Yeah.
Sort of be imaginatively terrified and think, well, this is coming. We probably can't stop it. How can we get the best out of it?
So is that the key question in your mind then, that we should be facing these things in the future and saying, how are we going to make this work?
Yes. The whole world is thinking that, and they're all thinking it in different ways. And I think Aotearoa, I think we have it. We've always prided ourselves in taking a different approach, a different stance. So I would love to see what's the Aotearoa New Zealand solution or way to get the best out of it. And I bet it will be slightly different from what they're doing in San Francisco and Shenzhen.
It has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, because we're different.
What about the bad actors out there, the governments or the individuals who would like to use AI in a way that's not so good for humans?
Definitely plan for that. I mean, don't put anything past sort of people who maybe they don't want to be evil, but they don't care. And they're interested in money and power. I mean, if you're thinking what use could they make of these technologies, well, we've seen deep fake technologies. So
that is an aspect of AI that, I hadn't even thought about that this morning, actually, but that is actually truly terrifying. When we look at the world stage from a political perspective, got America going into, elections next year for a new president. We've got a general election this year where AI is already being used by some political parties in the generation of their political messaging. America, though, is particularly scary because deepfake is becoming so good.
Yes.
It's really difficult to tell the difference between videos that are for real and those that have been generated on a computer.
Yeah.
What's that going to do to people's faith in the process or people's belief in the goodness of government? Could it lead to fractionating stability around the world, that it could be a very destabilizing influence? See,
Mike, those are great questions, and I would love to say, don't worry, I've got the perfect answer, but I'm just as worried as you are. So what happens when Chris Hipkins makes an announcement, says he's decided to resign immediately.
Yeah.
But is it him?
True?
I mean, yes. I mean, and that could happen. And you could think, well, okay, let's put that out there. What happens if we put that out there? A lot of people who say, oh, wow, okay, that just happened, they won't question it. So, I think we need to think through scenarios like that and be aware that they're potentially coming, and in a way, how would we respond to them?
And I get the feeling that the opportunity exists for people with fewer scruples than you and I may have to exploit people's willingness to believe things at first glance rather than delving deep and being critical in their thought and looking for confirmation or other sources to back up what they've just seen or heard.
I mean, if it looks like
it's so
the Prime
easy
Minister,
to sway people's opinion with a bit of propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, if it looks like the Prime Minister, speaks like the Prime Minister, acts like the Prime Minister, surely it must be the Prime Minister. What's the Prime Minister telling me to do?
Yeah.
Okay, I should do that. I mean, so in a way, that's what when we're told by a source that we trust to do something or worry about something, well, we tend to go along with that.
So we may not be necessarily talking about the potential future where, robotic police officers are just running amok and destroying the human race. We may not be talking about that, but we may be talking about a future where the potential for destabilizing influences like that could be rather huge.
Yeah, I think so. And in a way but I guess the first step to actually prevent that is to imagine its possibility.
And look for the good.
So, and also, yes, is the Prime Minister really resigning today? That doesn't seem right to me. I mean, as soon as you've had that thought, you're kind of semi-prepared. So I think, in a way, if we can actually just, young people today at universities, they've got loads of imagination. They're living in this world.
In the last 10 or 15 minutes, we've covered several subjects already, and I'm getting the feeling this is the kind of discussion you're looking forward to for Tuesday, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
How are you going to control that? You've got three of you on the panel. You can give me a bit of background on Mike Duke and Amanda Williamson, if you like. But how's that going to be controlled? And what are you going to do with that information or the ideas that you get from the floor?
Hopefully, I mean, there's actually four of us, and look it up on the website. But yes, there's. I hope there's just lots of ideas, and it's like I hope people come with a willingness to add their view, because if speak now or forever hold your peace, because I mean, I don't know, depending on some of the most apocalyptic scenarios, maybe this could be the last opportunity to speak in a way that has a shaping effect on the way we interact and deal with.
I get the feeling you're more optimistic than that, though.
I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way, because it's like, in a way, you've got to be optimistic about the climate crisis, don't you? I mean, otherwise you just kind of give up. And I think it's an exciting time to be alive.
But very threatening for some people.
I think it's a combination of exciting, because it's a time of change, and sort of the old ways of doing things no longer work so well.
Has the speed of development in this area surprised you at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because it's this exponential pattern of digital technologies where you think that's getting better, that's getting better, that's getting better, and then you kind of see the line go way up. You think, whoa, that's not just a bit better, that's astoundingly better. And so when you see that pattern, it's very shocking, because you're sort of thinking, oh, things will get a bit better, a bit better, a bit better. But no, things got a bit better, and then they got massively better.
Really fast. I know you don't have any definitive answer on this, but what's your feeling? What's the biggest driver behind this? Is it commercial or is it political?
I fear today that globally it's commercial. So the terrible thing is that we face is if you follow the money with tech, I fear that, in the way that social media sort of seemingly out of nowhere, made billionaires, I don't know, are there people out there saying, well, yes, we've had billionaires, why not trillionaires? Because this is a very it's a massive, the magnitude of this technology is huge. And there's all sorts of people, they're thinking the thought, how can we make money out of this?
Right at the forefront of it all.
Yes.
One other thing I just want to touch on really quickly before just giving some more information about the event again is I mentioned before that there's no sentience involved in AI at the moment. Can you, in your imagination, see a time when AI will get to a point where it is able to start constructing what we would identify as being logical or emotional thought?
Yes, that's a good question. That's the question that philosophers have always asked, and I wouldn't count it out. In a way, when is it going to happen? This clearly isn't. So the one advantage, if you're thinking about what do humans, well, we're the imagining species. So we can imagine crazy futures. ChatGPT just basically has a whole lot of text that we've entered on the internet, and if you didn't enter on the internet, it doesn't really see much beyond that. It sees patterns in that. So if you're looking at the powers of imagination, well, we are still the species that, we're the imaginers.
We're the dreamers.
We're the dreamers. Yeah. It's not. But in terms of will that still be true in 2050? Will people be playing this back and laughing at us, saying, haha, well, the most imaginative, creative beings in the world are now synthetic?
Now look at us. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the event again, because I hope we've opened up a whole range of different ideas in people's heads at the moment that they may be inspired to come along to the lecture. So the time and place again, 5:45 next Tuesday at the Gallagher Academy of Performing Arts at Waikato University. What should people come with other than an open mind?
A willingness to engage and a willingness. I mean it when I say kind of speak now or forever hold your peace. It's like, yes, if you let these things just happen, then maybe there will. You think about the progress of deepfake technology, the fact that these technologies are advancing, that they so quickly that if you have writing in your job, they may be doing it for you. Mm. So now's the opportunity. So just I want to hear ideas from the floor, from the audience.
It's called Bots versus Beings. How will AI impact your life and work? It's a big question. Will there be other events like this, do you think?
I hope that we don't stop talking about this, because we've got to keep on start. This is not a fad, I don't think. This is not just going to go away. And we always have to keep our eye on the ball, because if we stop talking about it, we're, I think, in trouble.
So by midnight on Tuesday, after all the discussion is finished with this, because I expect it could go past what you would normally think as being your time for this sort of thing, you'll have so many people wanting to contribute. What are you going to do with that information or the ideas that you gather from that? Are you going to compile them into some sort of summary of what's taking place?
It would be cool, but I think in a way people out there should be thinking, if I've got an opportunity to be heard, take that opportunity. So I always tell my students, why don't you write about this? It's happening to you, because the group of students at Waikato Uni, they think I need a job. Well, they think, well, are you aware you may be able to get a job now, but you may not keep that in 2040. Mm. If you expect to work. So if you have an opportunity to contribute your voice, and there can be many ways, be creative, take it.
Yeah. Don't take for granted what the future may hold for you, because my generation's gone through that, where our jobs of the future that we had when we were kids don't exist anymore, some of them.
Yep.
And the future is very different, or our future is now the present. So for the coming generations, they're going to face the same thing. I would love to welcome you back in a week or two's time and have a sort of post-event discussion about this and find out the stuff you've learned and the things that you would like to cover off from that, if you're up for it.
Yes, I would love to come back.
Excellent. Thank you, Professor Nick Agar. It's been a pleasure having you in the studio this morning, and I hope that next Tuesday's event takes off and you get a house full.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
And that it's robust. I really want to see a huge discussion on it and have people talking about this over their cornflakes the next morning as well.
Yeah, that would be the best.
It would, wouldn't it? Thanks so much for your time this morning and joining us on the Free Breakfast.
Thanks for listening to this Free FM podcast. If you want to hear more content like this, you can support Free FM via Patreon. Head to patreon.com/freefm89 to find out more.